Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your popcorn, your drink of choice, your beverage of choice, maybe coffee, glass of red wine. Don't forget the Kool-Aid for the kids. Call your mama, call your papa, your grandmama and your grandpapa, your auntie, your nenen, your nieces and your nephews, your siblings, your neighbors and your friends. Let them all know that Simon Says is on. Buckle up. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, a flyer was put out advertising this week's post cabinet briefing. I tell you, we in thing. We get in post cabinet briefing every week. Now, we need to know every week now, it seems, and that's good. Uh, the briefing for Tuesday, February the 10th, 2026, 9 a.m., featuring Tanty, Minister for Social Development. And I immediately thought, or knew rather, it was going to be a disaster. I knew she was sent to face the fire, a fire she can't handle. And though she is Minister of Social Development, this latest part of violence, the sex crimes, is not just a social issue, but also a national security issue. And therefore, Tanty should not be made to carry this on her own, not just because she's one of the weakest links, but the Minister for National Security, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, should have accompanied Tanty at this post-cabinet briefing. But as per usual, when it comes to serious matters, national issues, the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell is always a no-show. A convicted prisoner, convicted of many crimes, violent sex crimes, was released from prison. I mean, I've heard conflicting stories as to whether he was released after or before time spent, or whether he was released on good behavior. According to attorney Jerry Edwin, counsel for the inmate, Cade Richards, was released early.
Attorney Jerry Edwin, representing the accused in the Alejandra Let Hippolyte murder case, is threatening legal action against the government of Grenada, citing what he describes as long-standing failures in the treatment and housing of mentally challenged inmates. He says the tragic case involving Cade Richards exposes systemic neglect by successive governments in addressing the needs of mentally compromised prisoners. Edwin claims the case is marred by allegations that Richards had assaulted at least 2 other females prior to the most recent incident, which he says points to a lack of resources and accountability within the prison system.
It is well known Cade Richards was an inmate who suffered from mental capacity, a lack of mental capacity. But at the prison, there is a general mix of persons who lack mental capacity and the general population.
Edwin confirmed that Richards, who he says is mentally challenged, was serving a sentence for a sex-related offense, but was released early without undergoing a psychological evaluation. He argues that this failure further underscores the need for mentally compromised inmates to be housed separately from the general prison population. According to Edwin, there are nearly 30 inmates at the Richmond Hill prison who are bona fide mentally incapacitated. He said the Richards case should serve as a wake-up call.
It is time. This is a wake-up call. We must build a separate facility different from Richmond Hill. We have suggested it be at the psychiatric center in Mongay so that these persons, like Cade Richards, could be treated at this facility.
Edwin warned that unless the situation is addressed urgently, Grenada risks experiencing more tragedies.
Let us not blame a person who lacks capacity for losing self-control. In Grenada, we do not have a defense of insanity. So we are literally trying persons, sending them to jail when they are insane. It's time for us to stop this.
He threatened to file a lawsuit against the government of Grenada, arguing that the commingling of mentally ill inmates with the general prison population created foreseeable danger.
Because what we feared most has in fact occurred. And it has occurred in the worst circumstance, where an inmate has been released early without a psychiatric or psychological exam.
Attorney Jerry Edwin is representing Cade Richards in the murder case, which remains before the court. For GBN News, Janelle Dick.
Thank you, GBN. Compliments. The former inmate continued his crime spree on several persons. One young lady who escaped death but was severely injured with several chop wounds, and another victim, an 87-year-old woman who was sexually assaulted at her home. However, Alejandra Lett was not so blessed. On Friday, the 6th February 2026, 24-year-old Alejandra Lett, a nursing student of St. George's University, was raped and murdered. Her throat sliced and left to die in the bushes within walking distance from her home on her way home from class that day. A St. George's University nursing student. You see, when I spoke of the increase in violent crimes being linked to the US travel advisory ban, you guys understand where I was going with that now, right? Young Alejandra Lett, a student of SGU, and this time double the crime, rape and murder. The St. George's University mourns, right? She may be Grenadian, but of course, the word would be down there. That would be the narrative. That would be the talk, right? Secondly, to hide crimes so that we can say Grenada is the safest place in the world. Grenada is safe, right? We only had 10 murders for 2025. Grenada is the safest country in the world. The authorities refused to inform the nation that one of our most notorious seasoned criminal was out of prison and let loose in the streets. A notorious sex offender. Some of his victims includes his sister and her daughter, his cousin. According to his sister, whilst he was out this time around, he threatened to cut her head off. He was coming for her, he said. I guess he was busy in St. Andrews for a bit. So he sent messages. He's coming for her and her household. He was going to murder everybody in her household. Her entire household. I have come to the conclusion that in order to boast of low murder rates, the authorities, the RGPF, is refusing to treat certain cases declared as such. Recently, the case of Andrew Frederick, found dead at his home in Lansipede, St. George's.
Frederick's lifeless body was discovered on Monday, January 2nd, 2026, under circumstances relatives describe as violent. The home appeared ransacked, and there were visible injuries on his body, leading family members to suspect foul play. Despite apparent signs of homicide, police have not publicly indicated whether anyone has been questioned or arrested in connection with the case. We speak, and he's very close to us. And we speak to him and his mother so many times per day. But on the 2nd of January, they spoke. He and his girlfriend spoke until roughly 10 or 11 that night. Yeah. Saturday morning, we tried to contact him because I usually phone bright and early, his mother. We could not get in touch with him. I think she even emailed him the same night, the Friday night, but he didn't respond. So we got a bit worried. All Saturday, no response from him, no response. That was January the 3rd, yeah. So we asked someone to check the hospitals, institutions to see whether he's been admitted there or accident or whatever. It was all clear. So we asked them to check the house to see if his vehicle is there. The vehicle was there. So on the Sunday morning, we asked a friend to go to the house, get a ladder to get over the wall, and go around the house and see whether they could find him. Okay. The person went around the house, around the back door was open, and they found him, dead, basically in a pool of blood. Lying there. And the place was, you say ramsack here, but what's the word? It was vandalized. Yes, totally vandalized. According to the family member who chose to remain anonymous, the family engaged a professional pathologist from Trinidad and Tobago and a crime scene investigator. Based on their findings, they believe that Frederick's death was a homicide. Frederick was discovered after repeated attempts to contact him by phone failed, prompting someone to check on him at his home. We had to arrange our own autopsy before we leave London. So we arranged our own autopsy, and we've got the autopsy report, which we got on this, I don't know, the 6th or the 16th of January. Okay. We also instructed, that was a pathologist. We also instructed a crime scene investigator, which we've got their report as well. The police got all of that at our expense. Okay. We really don't know what's going on with the police because they agreed, because Professor Daisley from Trinidad, okay, we appointed, and the police say, well, they won't carry out their own autopsy because they know Professor Daisley and they'll accept his findings. Okay. But what they're saying is a suspicious death. Yet, is it suspicious? It is suspicious, but I don't know what they're doing about it. They say they're doing investigation behind the scene, but I'm not too sure if they're following up all the necessary leads. Maybe they are. I'm not too sure what they're doing. Police investigations into the case continue. Maxine and Twine for MTV News.
Thank you, MTV. Speaking to a close family member of the deceased Andrew Frederick, Professor Daisley, a private pathologist, was brought in to do the autopsy on Andrew Frederick. According to Professor Daisley, Andrew Frederick's cause of death suspicious, with blunt force trauma to the head. He bled to death. On Monday, the 13th of January, the autopsy report was released, which pronounced the death of Andrew Frederick as a homicide. 5 weeks now to date, Andrew Frederick was found at his home in Lansipines, dead, by a family friend who was asked by his family, who lives in the UK, to go check on him. Since the last time they heard from him was on Friday, the 2nd of January, 2026, On Saturday, the 3rd of January 2026, there was no communication. They couldn't reach him. And since they communicated every day, sometimes more than once for the day, they became worried. On Sunday, the 4th of January, still unable to reach Andrew, a family friend was asked to go check on him and found him dead. 5 weeks later, to date, the RGPF, the magistrate, the DPP, is yet to make it official that Andrew Frederick's death, that Andrew Frederick was murdered, really. According to the RGPF, Andrew Frederick fell and hit his head, had a huge laceration over his right eye, as I was told by the family member. There was splatter of blood everywhere. The house ransacked, like there was a struggle, but to the authority, it was just an unkept house. Uh, why does it seem like the authorities are trying to discard facts? Is it to keep down the murder rate? On paper, that is, because the autopsy is saying something different. The family of Andrew Frederick are seeking justice for their loved ones. Andrew Frederick was a Grenadian, like all of us, born of Grenadian parentage, his father from St. John's, his mother from Ladigue. Although he was born in the UK, he came to Grenada at the age of 7 or 8 thereabout and did primary school here for a little bit, returned to the UK, then returned to Grenada as a teenager because he fell in love with Grenada ever since the first time he came here. As a teenager, he attended the Westmoreland Secondary School, Tempe St. George. He then returned to reside here as an adult. Part of the reason was to help look after his grandparents who live here in Grenada. Here is his grandmother pleading for justice for her grandson.
I'm Andrew's grandmother. Andrew was my right hand. Andrew was so good to me. I couldn't do without him. I miss him so much. Who could do a thing like that to a human being? Who could kill Andrew and get away with it? Andrew is so kind. He will go out of his way to help anybody. He's loving, he's kind, he's genuine. And Andrew, I miss you so much. I miss you so much. As you could see, I'm old and disabled, partly disabled. What am I doing without Andrew now? God only knows. If anybody hear anything or see anything, please come forward. You can't let a mother go and let him do it to somebody else. Please come forward.
How touching, you know? It's really, really, really sad. And then there was Neil Franklin, and his family is also waiting official word from the authority, the magistrate, the TPP, right? The RGPF. What's going on with the Neil Franklin case? Even though, according to his autopsy findings on page 5 of the document, let me get my glasses here. First, marked cerebral edema, brain 1600 grams, with conning at the brain stem, suggestive of brain death. Pulmonary edema, congestion, and hemorrhage marked. Pallor of the myocardial injury, right ventricle dilation failure, tricuspid valve 150 millimeter, pleural effusions serious, right 600 milliliter, left 1,000 milliliter. Congested liver, acute renal failure, pulmonary, pleural, and cerebral hemorrhage. Summary of opinion as to cause of death. From the above mentioned information and appearances, I believe Neelan Franklin, aged 27 years, died from multi-organ failure affecting the kidneys, heart, and central nervous system. The chemical history is compatible with a chemical toxin. However, a toxic screen will be done to include ethylene, glycol, ethanol, methanol, opioids like fentanyl, marijuana, and other agricultural poisons. Toxicology would be done on tissue samples taken at the autopsy. Histology examination. Two tissues taken at autopsy will be done. Signed by Professor Hubert Daisley, MBSS, DM, FRCP. Now, after I did my piece here on Simon Says, the next day, the Friday after, the police visited Neelan's mom. From the CID, the head of the CID, visited Neelan's mom to say to her that according to the toxicology report, what they saw was only paracetamol. And so there was nothing to investigate further. Well, I have a copy of the toxicology report, and which I'll share with you, right? I mean, I don't understand this. Let me put this here. Now, this is the certificate of analysis here, and it says tested for screen for drugs, pesticides, and other toxic chemicals to include ethylene, glycol, opioids, fentanyl, cocaine, cannabis, household poison, agri-chemical poison, right, etc. Clients, the Commissioner of Police, Royal Grenada Police Force, St. George's, Grenada. And they give serial number and whatever else. Products, biological samples of Neelan Franklin. We come down to here, his blood. And it's saying here, his blood had polyethylene glycol, 83%, right? Ethanol, 90%. And paracetamol, 99%. No, when he got to the hospital, remember I told you guys his entire body was in pain. He told his mom everything inside was aching. He was in pain, all his organs. So they gave him paracetamol, of course. But there were all these other poisons in him, right? Polyethylene glycol is a versatile synthetic water-soluble polymer with numerous applications in medicine, cosmetics, and industry. Ethanol is a volatile, flammable, colorless liquid, commonly known as ethyl alcohol. Ethyl alcohol, the intoxicant in alcoholic beverages. Paracetamol is a common over-the-counter painkiller and a fever reducer. Now, bear with me with the medical terms, please. I'm not a doctor, I'm not familiar. But the sample description, GCMS results based on the Agilent Chem Station and that's the type of chemical. His stomach, the ethanol, 90% ethanol in his stomach. Ethanol is a volatile, flammable, colorless liquid commonly known as ethylene alcohol. Circulation, the Department of Chemistry, UWI Mona, and it was addressed to the Commissioner of Police, the Royal Grenada Police Force, St. George's, Grenada. Remarks: the detection limit is less than 10 ppb for the analytes screen. Confirmation of the concentrations of polyethylene, glycol, and the paracetamol are pending based on the availability of the reference standard. And it's signed by Dr. Raymond R. Reed. That's the analyst in the UWI Mona campus in Jamaica. Now, the pathologist from Trinidad has been questioning why isn't there an official statement on Neelan's death? Why isn't there? Well, we don't know if there's an investigation. His mom don't know, his family don't know, his sisters don't know. And so they are asking what is going on with the investigation, if there is one, and if there isn't one for Neelan Franklin, why isn't there one? His death, shocked all of Grenada. All of Grenada. Neelan Franklin died on Sunday, the 25th August, 2025. And to date, no official word from the authorities or the powers that be, whoever is responsible, the magistrate, the DPP, then hand it to the police. Nothing, nothing. It's all about optics. We only had 10 murders in 2025, all smiles.
10 is too much. But when you compare Grenada with the rest of our neighboring islands, this is just a drop in the bucket. Our neighbors to the north, they're already into the 60s. I don't want to talk about our neighbors to the south, they're into the hundreds. Grenada, we're fortunate that we've only had 10 homicides and we're able to solve all 10.
So we had 10 murders, and the drop in the bucket when we compare our neighboring islands. And so that's fine. And forget the families of not being told, not having any closure on the passing of their loved ones. I'll mention in passing my dear friend, someone who called me mom, Tanty. I asked the RGPF or whomever it may concern, please, we need an update on the Tanty murder case. What's going on there? What's happening there with Tanty? So we have a long line. The line is getting long. It's Tanty, it's Neelan, it's Andrew, and so not tending to those cases doesn't mean that it happened. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It happened. It happened. Now, to return to the victim at hand, Alejandra Lett and Tanty Glow's post-cabinet briefing. Tanty Glow said that they planned this post-cabinet briefing for 2 months.
Senator the Honorable Gloria Thomas, Minister for Housing, Community and Social Development and Gender Affairs, to make her opening remarks. Minister.
Thank you, Ms. Etienne. Let me acknowledge my peers and my manager who is here with me to be part of this important press briefing. 2 months ago, when we planned this press briefing, little did we know that our country will be thrown into mourning in the way it is at this current time. We are here this morning not only to talk about development in social development, but also to reflect on the life and the situation that has recently rocked this nation, the death of a young woman. And so we continue as a ministry to work to sensitize the public, to reach out for stronger legislation, and to ensure that women and girls are protected.
I don't understand the 2 months ago planned post cabinet briefing when 2 months ago we were not getting post cabinet briefing. And even if let's leave out post cabinet briefing and just say press conference. I don't understand that a press conference has to be planned 2 months ahead. But with NDC, anything is possible. Now, Tantiglo linked the Age of Civil Responsibility Bill to sex crimes and gender-based violence.
Another. But it shows us that there are many different aspects where gender based violence can be demonstrated. And I hasten to add, when we came forward with the bill of legal, civil and legal responsibility, this is a step in helping us address gender based violence as well. This bill is seeking to ensure that children under the age of 16, as the bill says, but I will say under 14, 13, should have the access to go reach out for counseling, to reach out for services, to reach out for medical assistance when they are violated. Many of our homes do not have parents who are able to be a parent for their children. This bill was a bill to fill that gap. There was this outcry about taking parents' responsibility. This bill is far from that. The bill was set out to ensure that children who do not have parents who are responsive, they may be there physically, but emotionally they are absent, parents whose children cannot have a conversation with them, these children could seek alternative source of comfort and service. And that is what this bill is about. However, we had many people coming out and kill the bill, kill the bill. But the same people standing up now and say, we're so saddened by gender-based violence and so on. So as a people, we have to be a little more honest with ourselves. And if we are serious about gender-based violence, we shouldn't let politics and political mileage get in the way of our work to stop gender-based violence. And I feel very much emotional about it. Because while as a ministry, we are working to ensure that gender-based violence is addressed, we have persons on the other end trying to look at the negative part of this bill to promote all sort of confusion and all kind of misinformation to the public. And I had to make that point here this morning in light of what happened over the weekend.
No, first of all, Tantiglo don't even know the name of the bill. Secondly, she's admitting that there are negative parts of the bill and that people are using the negative. If there are negative parts of the bill, you have to deal with the negative parts of the bill. It's plain and simple. Now, this bill that Tantiglo talking about there has nothing to do with sexual crimes. There's no link and gender-based violence in the way she's trying to put it across, that if they had passed the bill, they were allowed to pass the bill, we wouldn't be where we are today. No, All the bill is saying the same thing. If the young lady had lived, and let's say she got pregnant, she would not have needed, well, she's a young adult, so she would not need parental guidance. But she's saying, let's say it's a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old that was in that situation and they got pregnant when raped, they don't necessarily need their parents to allow them to go to a doctor and have an abortion. So your 12, 13-year-old is seeing a doctor without your approval, trying an abortion, and died in the process. Who is compensating you? Who who is coming to tell you, no, what they're going to bury your child without you knowing? If they could do all of that without you knowing, then yeah, I guess they could bury your child without you knowing as well. And the bill is still after the fact. What they're saying, after the child was abused or misused, assaulted, it's after the fact, Tanty Glow, that then the child does not need the parents' permission to take care of whatever medical needs. That's what they're saying. So it's not prevention. The bill would not prevent gender-based violence. So I don't understand what, I mean, Jesus. What are you talking about? Yes, kill the damn bill, excuse me. Because you can't have 12-year-old and 13-year-old making decisions and you self say it. 12, 13 down there. Kill the bill, of course. Kill it. Dead. And your linkage has nothing to do with each other. They have absolutely nothing. So to try and push your bill in a situation like this, that is what is disheartening. How on earth that age of civil responsibility bill supposed to prevent gender-based violence? What is the relevance between gender-based violence and the age of civil responsibility bill? What is it? What's the relevance? And what is the percentage of homes? Give us data, Tanty Clue, of homes on this island where children do not have a parent or a guardian or guardians or parents to care for them. Where's the data to show what you're talking about is greater than loving, caring home where a child can talk to their parents. Of course, there are kids that are afraid to talk to their parents for more than one reason. Of course, there are homes where there are no communication. But is that percentage greater enough for you to tell me that you're going to pass a bill that my 13-year-old daughter could make decisions about her body with a politician, with a doctor, and not me? In fact, in Alejandra's case, it was her dad who found her dad and her brother. They found her lifeless body in the bushes when her father didn't see her home at the time she normally should be. He called her phone, she no answer her phone. And he went looking for her. And it seemed like she had left clues on a trail so they could find her, which they did. A slipper by the road, an umbrella, Other things that she had with her, she dropped as she went along. And it did lead them to her. But when they got to her, she was already dead. What would the bill have done in her case? What kind of nonsense? I think it's utter disrespect that this administration just have these clueless people, these novices, just come in and tell us, I mean, just look at listen to the state of this thing that we have to put up with in a serious case like this. Jesus, you could have probably have somebody from the hospital, a doctor, somebody who has a knowledge of what they needed to say to us. Well, we know the Minister of National Security should have been there as well. But it's extempo we are getting retail, right? But he does song as if he know what he talking about. You understand? Come on now. A young lady, 24 years old, got raped and murdered, and you send out your weakest link to come and tell us about when they're saying kill the bill, and now the same set of people saying what? Are you kidding? This is embarrassing. This is not cool to stay under the house when it's only you and your friends playing all this, hearing this crap. The world is listening to us. This is our representation. Alejandra was 24, not 13. So what are you talking about? The bill could help with gender violence. What are you talking about? The young lady was raped and murdered, her throat slit, and left to bleed to death within walking distance of her home. Within walking distance of her home. He stopped and went to the mini mart or something and then was walking home. How cold and callous of you, Tanty, to use the rape and murder of Alejandra to push your bill, your administration bill that has no relevance whatsoever to the situation at hand. How on earth passing that bill would have prevented the rape and murder of 24-year-old Alejandra Let? How about the 87-year-old woman? How about her? That was sexually assaulted in her home. Her electricity disconnect, cut off, cut whatever, and to her place in dark. She can't even see what was going on. How about that? Would that be, would the bill have helped her? I know he probably was looking for content and trying to sensationalize the whole thing, but this is no time. There's no time. This is no time for that. We need to hear from the Prime Minister of this country for once. Come and face the people of Grenada. Address us as a nation. This Prime Minister had never addressed the nation except for in things like independence and so when he make his presentation. But to say you call your family, your children, and say, come, let's sit here. The Prime Minister is addressing the nation at 8 o'clock this evening. Never once in almost 4 years. He don't care about us. He don't care about us. This is shameful and disgusting. Tanty emphasized the need to reduce gender-based violence by getting everyone on board.
Because we realize this scourge, we need to get rid of it. And so we want to encourage the public, we want to encourage women's organization, we want to encourage churches, civil society organizations to come forward to work along with us so that our agenda could be realized. We need to reduce the number of gender-based violence in this country. When you check their sizes, most of the cases are sexual related cases. And that says something very concerning for us as a people. And so I want to ask parents, I want to reach out to parents, I want to implore that parents try to raise their boys in a more socially acceptable way. We leave the boys to roam. We leave the boys out of order and we fleece boys, but they are all there picking up the bad habits, doing what is antisocial and creating another problem. When you look around, you go to a school fair, small children, you see trying to gyrate on the girls and people laughing and they clapping. I'm not amused by that. And I think even as men on the street, you hear how they speak to a woman when she passes. You hear the comments they make. And I see our men very much disrespectful to our women. That is not far from rape. So I think as a people, we need to take a deep look at how we treat women, how we respond to women, and how we conduct ourselves when it comes to gender relations. And I believe that if we get everyone on board, less of those incidents will occur and we'll have less of those incidents to deal with.
Now, who's everyone she's trying to get on board? Your administration, your cabinet, your government, the NDC dismantled the social partners when they came into office. We hear nothing of the social partners anymore. Some of these people you calling, they were part of the social partners that worked along with the former administration to solve, yes, social issues and other issues in the country. Yes. So who are the people you're calling on board now? Everyone. Who are the everyone you're calling on board to help? Which board you're calling them on? You guys don't want help. You guys know it all. You guys are refusing to engage persons that can help because in your mind they don't support your party. So you're using a set of round pegs in square holes and settling for mediocrity. You don't need help. You don't want help. Tanty was asked, what is her ministry's plan to bring awareness to the nation on gender-based violence?
All right, so the next question I think is for Minister. In leading the charge on gender based violence, is there anything that the ministry has planned for the upcoming months to bring more awareness to the nation?
Well, to begin with, tomorrow we'll be doing a candlelight vigil, starting at Crossroad Church and going down to the area where the incident occurred. We are inviting and encouraging the public to come out. We are also inviting NGOs and women organizations to be part of what we're doing. And we continue to sensitize the public. Yesterday I did a release. I wasn't able to hear it last night because there was no internet where I live. But I think that was part of the sensitization, that was part of reaching out to the family. This was part of showing the community that we're responsive and we are part of what is happening in terms of feeling the pain of others, in terms of showing support and being there for the family and the wider community.
A release. She didn't hear it. Just like you didn't hear it, number of us didn't hear it or see it. I don't know if it was a audio or if it was we didn't see it, we didn't hear it. How does that sensitize? How is that sensitizing the nation? Yeah? Everything is in social media now. You guys put out and one when you all feel like anyways. How's a candlelight vigil? You know, most people just they light a candle and they walk along and sing along and how is that sensitizing the nation? This is sadness. This is sadness. This is what we get after we lost a young lady, a nursing student at the age of 24, coming from classes, went to school, and you come talking about release and you didn't hear it because you didn't have cable, you didn't have internet, and you didn't hear it, and that this is weak as an administration. This is weakness. It shows the weakness in you guys. Was the matter really discussed in cabinet? What awareness will a candlelight vigil bring? After the candlelight vigil, then what? We could do one every week, every other day? Because if that's what you have for awareness, so after this candlelight vigil, when it was, I think it was yesterday, what no? Where are we today? That a question was posed to Tanty. The call for social partners. How can they help to curb gender-based violence?
Morning, Lily Pascal, MTV. My questions are for Minister. In your opening remarks, you made a call for unified national response involving churches, NGOs, and community leaders. How can these groups collaborate and actively support the fight against gender-based violence?
Well, as a ministry, we do have social partners like health and education and the police and so on. So when we are having those interactions and those meetings, we could ask them to send a representative to be part of those meetings because we always meet. The key social partners always meet to discuss the issue and to look at strategies, look at recommendations that could make to government. And we're looking now at probably asking for some change in policy in terms of jail sentence or things that could deter people from getting into this life of crime.
How is it health and education, your social partners? I don't missing something. I'm missing something. Let's hear the next clip.
As you rightfully stated earlier, we know that the island is in an uproar, mourning and so. For citizens who are angry, fearful, and demanding change, let's see, what message would you send out today, particularly to women and girls who may be fearful to leave their home and go out?
Well, what I would say to persons who fear, well, fear is a normal thing in a situation like that, but I could just encourage them to be a little bit um, relaxed about everything. Don't stress too much because this will not change anything. But everybody have a right to the feelings and the emotions. I can tell them don't be fearful. And what we want to do is to continue to reach out to the community because we will be having tomorrow a debriefing session in the community. We'll be having it in the Crochet RC School. And persons who, what time? What time? Oh, yes, it's just correcting me. She says today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is the candlelight, sorry. So today we'll be meeting with the community in the Crochet School. Members who feel that they want to be debriefed, persons who feel they want to talk about it, persons who feel that they really need some support and some encouragement. inviting them to come out to the school, the communities, so that we could give that support and that kind of encouragement to them.
So, which is it, Tanty Glow? Relax, be fearful, not to be fearful. Which is it? I mean, this is who is in charge of our social development in our country. This is what we have to deal with. I would just say relax, tell them to relax. But then I can't tell them how to feel. She was further questioned on policy shifts that to deal with the issue at hand.
Incidents of another set of violent incidents, the attempted rape or rape of an elderly woman and the killing of a young girl has again brought attention to those issues, as happens whenever these shocking events occur. Can you tell me, as minister responsible for areas of vulnerability, women, children, the mentally ill, and so on, can you tell me what it is in terms of policy shifts? What policy shifts can you point to that deals with the issues that apply here, where the mentally ill people, the protection of women and girls and the elderly, and to ensure that there's a system where people do not fall through the cracks, and where a violent rapist who came out of prison after 10 years gets to just be free. Yes, he served the sentence, but is there any sort of plan to have any kind of monitoring? What's a policy shift related to trying to avoid things like that happening?
Thank you for your
Sorry, very
question.
long question.
Thank you for your question. One of the things that we've been looking at as a government is to have in place a register for offenders where we can make it available to the public so we know who those offenders are, sex offenders, so you can guard yourself against them. If you see them in your community, you look out for your neighbor, you speak about it, you say, well, you know, this man that raped 3 times is out there, I see you renting Miss Jane house down the road. So we have to have community watch in those instances, because we know who the people are, and we have to come as a community to really protect and look out for each other. The police won't be able to do everything, and the police cannot be everywhere all the time. But as community, we have to look out for each other. So if we have the register, we know who those people are, and we could guide ourselves against them. In terms of the jail sentence, that was a discussion we were having yesterday too. We are thinking that calendar years should be calendar years, and you should not know jail years and calendar years. So if you get a sentence for 33 years, it's 33 years. Because I think they say 8 months or 9 months is a jail year or something so. So I don't know why we're so lenient to the persons who go to prison. I think a year is a year, and if it's 12 months for us outside here, it should be 12 months for them inside it. So this is a policy shift we are considering. So when we hear a man get 33 years and coming out after 10 years, that ain't making much sense for victims and survivors and family and community. We have to protect the community from persons who we think need rehabilitation, longer period of time to be rehabilitated, because after 10 years you come out and you have the same habit and the same practice, that means he was not rehabilitated.
I'm having palpitations. The more I hear it, the more angry I get, right? Imagine they sit down in cabinet talking about changing jail years to calendar years. This is not a country's decision. This is not even regional. This is international. I don't know that Grenada could just sit down and change. That's a policy shift that they've been talking about. Could you imagine that? That's the policy shift. Changing jail years to regular calendar years. And there is no way according to jail years, which I think they said is 9 months, that 33 years could turn into 10. There's no way. I think I need to take you to class with me, Tanty Glow. I leave already, I didn't graduate. Ah, I graduate. You know, the former administration had started the process, and that's according to former Attorney General. They had started the process of putting together a sex registry. Let's hear what she had to say.
Over the last couple of months, the number of reported cases of sexual offences has been steadily increasing. During the months of January 2020 to July 2021, 38 sexual offences were completed by the court, with 23 convictions and 8 acquittals. In April of this year, 204 reports and cases were brought before the criminal assizes, of which 88 were sexual offence cases. According to Attorney General Dia Forrester, we do have a sex crime issue in Grenada that must be addressed.
We do have a sex crimes issue in Grenada, and we must tackle that issue in a direct manner. So the advent of the National Sex Offenders Registry Bill is one of the measures being used to assist with that process of tackling sex crimes in our country. The bill is aimed at deterring, punishing, and shaming rapists, pedophilias, and those others with a propensity to commit sexual crimes. The bill is also aimed at ensuring members of the public are aware of who are offenders living amongst us, so that members of the public are better able to protect themselves.
The bill forms part of the legislative agenda of the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Attorney General Chambers for 2021. This bill seeks to deter potential sex offenders from committing registerable offences and to keep the public informed of the presence of sex offenders in their communities.
A comprehensive register that is accessible only by the Commissioner of Police, and a second register that members of the public may inspect. The intended registers would be in the control and custody of the Commissioner of Police, providing the parameters for the police force to effectively monitor registered sex offenders and facilitate the Commissioner assessing the likelihood of that individual endangering their community and people with whom they interact with frequently.
Minister for Social Development and Housing, Delma Thomas, addressed the issue.
We have a responsibility. The responsibility is not only with the Ministry of Social Development, the SVU, and the police force. When you commit sexual offense on children, you are killing them. You are really killing them. You're destroying them for life. They are broken after. And you can't repair those brokenness. And therefore, we have to look at this crime, as a scourge, as an evil spirit.
Legal Affairs Minister Kendra Maturin Stewart explained that under the bill, registered offenders will be required to report to the police station once every 6 months. Failure to adhere can result to a fine of $10,000 and/or 2 years imprisonment. Failure to comply with reporting to the police station every 6 months is a summary offense, punishable by $5,000 or 12 months behind bars. Christina John, GBN News.
We're going to get to Tanty Glow and number 10 and them in a minute. Let's hear the clip.
Attorney General Dia Forrester says consultations on the National Sex Offenders Registry have already begun, with the hope of taking a National Sex Offenders Registry bill to Parliament for debate before the end of this year. Forrester explains the objectives of the proposed bill.
Now, the primary objectives of the bill are to deter potential sex offenders from committing registerable offences and afford the public the opportunity to be informed of the presence of sex offenders in their communities and take all necessary precautions to protect vulnerable categories of people. The bill seeks to establish a register of persons who have been convicted of a registerable offence, and the register would be in the control and custody of the Commissioner of Police.
The Ministry of Social Development is tasked with the advancement of these consultations before the bill goes before Parliament. The register will be separated into two parts. Forrester explained.
One portion containing the relevant information on the registered sex offenders, and the other portion containing the specific information available to the public. Now, this approach seeks to avoid contravention of the constitutional right of a person to the protection of privacy of his home under Section 1C of the Constitution.
The National Democratic Congress, through its public relations officer, Claudette Joseph, welcomes the move, noting that this part of their vision is being reflected. She says the party is willing to offer its support to government in actualizing this vision.
National Democratic Congress would like to take this opportunity to endorse and commend the government on its announcement via the Attorney General yesterday at the post-cabinet briefing that it intends to take to Parliament legislation that will deal with the registration, among other things, of sex offenders in Grenada.
Based on reports, the Special Victims Unit recorded an overall increase in sex crimes during the first 3 months of this year. Statistics reveal an upsurge in adults' sexual involvement.
So, what she said, this part of their vision, in other words, the NDC, whilst in opposition, they had that vision as well. Election came because this was in 21 to 22, all this was happening, the consultations and so for the bill. You, Senti daughter, is the Minister for Legal Affairs and the Attorney General of this country at the moment. What happened to your vision? It gone? There was no continuation. And so we hear today saying, oh, they should have tell us the guy, he's on the loose, he's out, and and we want the registry, and there's no registry. Where is your vision now? You and your party, the NDC. Where is that vision you all had? You blinded. But I'm playing more because I want the public to know that there was something in the making. There was a bill out there. There was consultation taking place. We had the Minister of Social Development then, Delma Thomas, number 10, speaking on it. Right? We had the Minister of Legal Affairs, Kendra Mathurin Stewart, also speaking on it. Now a magistrate. What happened after NDC came into office? But let's hear the national report.
Ministry of Social Services asked Grenadians to contribute toward the draft sex offenders bill as the government moves to eradicate sexual crimes. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Friday, July 9th, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The Ministry of Social Services has begun consultation to discuss and get feedback on the Sex Offenders Registry Bill, which seeks to deter potential sex offenders from committing registerable offenses and afford the public the opportunity to be informed of the presence of sex offenders within communities. The Sex Offenders Registry Bill forms part of the legislative agenda of the Ministry of Legal Affairs and the Attorney General Chambers for 2021. This consultation, which was held on Thursday, gave stakeholders and participants the opportunity to dissect, discuss, and provide feedback on the bill.
Now, at number 10, this is the kind of gossip we would hope you'll take from your former party and administration to your new party and administration. This is the gossip we need for you to bring. That there was a bill out there, a draft bill, and that you started consultation and that you'd like to continue. It's almost 4 years now. That's the kind of gossip. But to stand up and say you was ill-treated and you couldn't speak. Now you could speak. You're in a place where you can speak. You say you can speak now, you're free. Speak. These are the things to speak about and get it done. You and Tanty Glow playing Ring a Roses. She is now the Minister of Social Development that you will talk to her, sit down, talk to her. This is the type of thing we want to hear from you. Now that you're free and you could speak, you have room to move, you have space. That's what you need to speak about. Sit down in the parliament making mawet with them children. Making mawet with them children. This is what we need. So that today, Alejandra Let would have been alive because we would have known that the notorious sexual molester, rapist, murderer is outside. But you there holding up pipe in the parliament and grinning with Kirina and Ron and them in the parliament. That's what you need to do. Almost 4 years. Why haven't this NDC administration continued the process? Instead, you're rushing to pass Age of Civil Responsibility bill that is not a preventative measure. But in fact, like you explained, Tanty Glow, it's all about after the crime is committed. The child then has the right, according to the bill, to seek assistance outside of their home without the parent consent or their knowledge. This bill, in my mind, will actually increase gender-based violence. Imagine a 13-year-old. A 13-year-old. If you can do what you want without your parents knowing, it could only increase it. We talking about abortion and stuff like that, but isn't abortion is on the still on the book as a crime in this country? And they want to change the jail years. They sit and discuss jail years, changing it to regular calendar years. A cabinet, a 4-hour cabinet. Sit down and talking about that. That's the policy shift. There's a follow-up question by one of the media workers there. How close is the Deacon Mitchell administration to forming a registry?
Please do indulge me, First Secretary.
No.
The sex offenders register is a conversation that has been happening for a very, very long time. Can you tell me, as part of the government's legislative agenda that they intend to take to Parliament, how close are you to tabling legislation that will seek to have the sex offenders register in place? Would you also consider chemical castration as one of the laws that you will take to Parliament to attach to sex crimes? And also, Minister, I just want to say that the gentleman, I haven't researched it yet, but I would believe that if someone got a 33 sentence, it was probably a bundle of sentences that ran concurrently, because even with the 9 months at the jail year, 33 years does not whittle down to 10, even with that calculation. So it's probably that instead of getting consecutive sentences, he was given concurrent and would have served the longest of the sentences with, of course, the 9 months off. So how close are you in your legislative agenda to the sex offenders register, please?
Well, as you know, the Ministry of Legal Affairs is the one who work on the legislation to take it to the Parliament. I can assure you it will happen this year. I don't know the schedule, so I cannot speak for the Ministry of Legal Affairs. But what I can say is we're hoping to have that in place this 2026.
So what I go say? She know how the schedule, but she know they could do it could take place this year. What else can I say to that? I can't nothing to that. WFM News ask if there is a collaboration between the Ministry of Social Development and the RGPF.
From WFM News. I believe she's having some trouble logging in this morning. The question reads, can we see any collaboration with the RGPF and the Ministry of Social Development in community policing and other engagements for violence against women, for example, self-defense classes? I don't know if there have already been some collaboration there, but can you speak to that?
Well, we work along with the police in all areas of in terms of planning, prevention, responding to GBV. We have a representative from the police on our committee that deals with community response and community matters. And we continue to work with them. The idea of self-defense classes is something that could be considered, but in general way, the police is highly involved with us and we work along with them. And that includes Ministry of Health as well as education.
Highly involved, and they didn't tell you that Cade Richards was out of prison on early release and is roaming the streets of Grenada as we speak. They didn't tell you that, but you highly involved with them. Let's wrap up with Tanty Glow.
Before we close, I just want to appeal to the public that we need to be a little bit more intentional on our efforts to get rid of domestic violence, gender-based violence. We get outraged, we react strongly when incident like what happened weekend takes place, and it's your right, you know. But along the way, we have not contributed in any way to its reduction or the chance of it not happening. We hear men put down women, and women say, brother man, stop that now. What going on with there now? You know, we're not really helping the whole system to be better. Some of us, we even take part in all kind of negative things towards women, and when women get their life is lost, we react and we get so strong about things. But we were the guys on the block last week calling women all kind of names, doing all kind of a thing. So I think we need to see how we have to look at how we relate with women. We need to see how we treat our women. And parents, I cannot say it enough. You need to know, you need to raise your boys in a manner to respect women and to be there for the sister, the brother, the cousin, the neighbor, and what have you. So we have to build a culture. We have to have a society where we are so aware that every step we make, we ensure that we look after the welfare of our women and we respect them, not just react strongly when one lose their life. So boys on the block, I hope you're hearing me. Men that will have respect for the partner, I hope you're hearing me. Young children, you are hearing me, and we have to look at the music that we play, the music we listen, and the music we allow to infiltrate our society. I think all these things contribute to the way we interact and relate to our women. So I just want to say we need to be more proactive than reactive, and we need to make sure that we respect our women.
There you have it. Imagine our policymaker telling us that what we need to say is, brother man, stop that now. This is where we are today in 2026. Now I take offense, Tantiglo, to your insinuations And more than once, sir, you said it, that the boys on the blocks are somehow sex offenders. That is stereotype. Lots of gender-based violence takes place in the workplace, the office, the business place, in the homes, among families, relatives, and friends, spouses, one to each other. And yes, spouses, not just female, male against female, but female against male as well. It goes both ways. It goes both ways. There are male victims as well. Gender based refers to any harmful act repatriated against a person's will that is based on socially ascribed gender differences between males and females. It is a profound human rights violation. Gender based violence can affect anyone. However, it's disproportionately impacts women and girls. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, in his presentation on Saturday, February the 7th, 2026, at the National Stadium, our 52nd independence celebration, failed to acknowledge the seriousness of the situation of rape and murder that took place over the past week. Like the narcissist he is, and yes, he is a narcissist, no empathy for others, and a total lack of leadership. I have some statistics for you. Rape and sexual assault are significant issues in Grenada, as indicated by both recent news reports of specific cases and general crime statistics. The U.S. State Department has issued a level 2 travel advisory for Grenada, warning of an increased risk of crime, including violent crimes and rape. Statistics and general information, according to the Caribbean Development Bank analysis, 1 in 3 women in Grenada has experienced some form of sexual assault. The Royal Grenada Police Force Special Victims Unit has expressed concern about a high number of sex crimes, especially against minors. Cross-cutting sex crime can be complex, as Grenada does not have the in-country capacity to analyze DNA samples, which must be sent to Barbados or Jamaica. Profile incidents and arrests involving rape in Grenada, murder of the U.S. couple in 2024, and we're just talking more recent times. 3 escaped prisoners, Ron Mitchell, Atiba Stanislaus, and Trevon Robertson, hijacked a yacht belonging to U.S. citizen Carthy Bandel and Ralph Hendry. The couple was killed, and Bandel was reportedly raped before her death. The trio was charged with capital murder and rape, Stanislaus on other related offenses. Rape of SGU students, 2025. In October 2025, 3 men were apprehended and appeared in court in connection with the rape of 2 female students from the St. George's University SGU. Multiple allegations in 2025. On February 2025, a St. George's man faced 36 rape allegations. Psychiatric hospital incident, and investigation was launched into reports that a resident at the psychiatric hospital was raped and became pregnant by male staff. Folks, it's bad. And it's not just today, it's been bad. As you heard, the former administration had a draft bill somewhere in the Ministry of Legal Affairs or the Attorney General's office. Our Minister of Legal Affairs and the Attorney General is the same individual, the one who was praising the former administration for the same vision. Tanty daughter, we hope that the next time you go to Parliament is to deal with the sex registry bill. We do hope. Now, speaking of independence and the Prime Minister not acknowledging and not even asking for a moment of silence for Alejandra Let, the Prime Minister left home for Dubai in the heart of the 52nd celebrations to go to the UAE. Now, the conference, whatever they've been to, was to benefit the UAE. Hosting the annual World Government Summit, WGS, I guess the weeks, in Dubai, provides the UAE with immense strategic, economic, and soft power benefits, acting as a masterclass in global influence. The event positions the UAE, United Arab Emirates, as a central, neutral convener of world leaders, driving forward its vision for future-focused governance and economic diversification. Key net benefits for the UAE includes soft power and the global positioning. WIGS reinforces the UAE's role as a global hub for policy, dialogue, innovation, and international cooperation, bridging East and West, economic diversification, and investments. The summit facilitates high-level invitation only focus such as the WIGS, IFC, Latin American and Caribbean Investment Forum that boost foreign investment and help diversify the UAE's economy away from reliance on the natural resources. The UAE uses the platform to launch national initiatives such as the Family First Program 2026, aligned with their 2031 vision for sustainable development. Direct economic impact. The influx of thousands of international high-level delegates provides substantial immediate economic activity. For Dubai is hospitality, tourism, and aviation sectors. In essence, the WIGS serves as a lab for governments that allows the UAE to actively shape global friends while fostering partnership that drives its own economic development. Folks, it's all about the UAE. Well, it was all about the UAE. There was nothing there for us, the heads from CARICOM that went, They went on, literally, on a joyride, put up in luxurious hotels as they wine and dine the days away, eat, drink, and be merry, as per usual. The bad boy crew was there. They were present. Dr. Terence Drew, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Dominica, and Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada. Now, what was so important that our Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, had to leave in the peak of our independence celebration. Now, our independence celebration is not just February 7th and the parade on the military parade in the stadium. That's not just a celebration. He missed the church service to go to Dubai. What did we achieve? What did we get? What did you bring home to us, to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell? And what is worse, we were never told he was out of town, as usual, for the most part. At the service, it was announced that Minister Lennox Andrew was acting as Prime Minister. And of course, I seeked information from my contacts, the UK connected to Dubai, and I was told he's in Dubai. In Dubai, Prime Minister was interviewed and asked about Grenada diversifying. Here's his answer, or here's the interview.
Mitchell, how is Grenada looking at diversifying beyond just the traditional sectors? Are we looking at more financial sectors as well within the country? And again, in a day and age where the Caribbean is seeing a lot of disruption, how are you prioritizing the sectors here?
Sure, thank you. Well, I should point out, I think most of the Caribbean have long gone beyond the aid model of development. To a large extent, we are all middle-income countries. I'll give an example. USAID was canceled, and in my country, there wasn't a single program that was impacted because there's just no USAID to us. So we've sort of long gone beyond that and have taken, in a sense, non-traditional ways of attracting foreign direct investment. So, for example, in Grenada, our financial services are not as strong or robust as the BVI, but we have an investment migration program that has, in the last 10 years, contributed significantly to both direct government revenues as well as foreign direct investment that has allowed us to actually weather some pretty significant shocks, both in terms of economic shocks as well as climate shocks. For example, last year and COVID. So for example, last year we would have had a pretty devastating Category 4 hurricane very early in the hurricane season. That allowed us to withstand that shock, engage in significant rebuilding without having in any way to suspend our debt payments or engage in any sort of calamitous financial restructuring. We were able to weather the COVID-19 shutdown of the economy for almost 2 years and still pay people in the tourism sector who are out of jobs. So, our approach is, I heard the Prime Minister of Montenegro talking about the need for, a Prime Minister essentially to be the chief salesperson of the countries, and to a large extent, that's how we see our roles as well. So it's not just from a policy-making perspective, but how do you champion an environment that encourages foreign direct investment? So we think there are a couple of areas, and the Premier talked about it. Healthcare, for example. We don't see healthcare as a sector where you're just simply trying to provide, primary or reactive care to your citizens, but we see it as a specific growth sector. We have a huge offshore medical and veterinary school on an island that has, in a sense, grown enormously over the last decade, that attracts students from all over the world. It's valued at over $1 billion, has significant hedge fund investments. And so we are producing doctors from all over the world, including from Africa, Asia, the Middle East. The students come. It's accredited to the US, so they have an opportunity, both from a nursing, veterinary, and a medical perspective, to be educated in Grenada, live in perhaps paradise, and at the same time get an opportunity to then become global citizens. And we are looking to build a state-of-the-art teaching research hospital that will piggyback on this, that would allow for us to enter the medical tourism market at a high-end level that matches with our tourism. So we take a very, this is just one extra. So traditionally, you'd see education as something a government spends to educate its citizens. We've managed to actually create an education industry that is effectively about 20% of the country's GDP by having that school. And so we think the next stage is obviously actual healthcare. And there's some clear advantages. A lot of the research that is done in Western countries. So you find the ethnic makeup is not necessarily appropriate for Africa or Asia or even the Middle East. The Caribbean is ethnically diverse. So we think it's an opportunity as well for a lot more research to be done and for us to drive innovation in areas like this. So those are some of the non-traditional approaches that we are taking to diversifying our sectors. And I'd add one area, because obviously we've been talking a lot about AI, but I think fintech is still an area that's largely on tap, blockchain, crypto. My colleague in Bermuda, Bermuda sort of led the way in creating a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency. We just talked about how do we piggyback on the fact that they already have the expertise in regulation to allow Bermuda to be able to become the regulator in Grenada, rather than reinventing the wheel of attempting to do it ourselves, so that we can leapfrog into the space rather than trying to start from scratch. So that's the kind of innovative approach that we are taking to diversifying some of the economic sectors.
Well, first of all, and it's a lot to unpack there. And I know sometimes you guys just miss what he's saying, because some of them he just jammed them in there nice and quiet without even opening his mouth to speak. How does the Prime Minister know that no one was impacted from USAID leaving the country? How? After Hurricane Ivan, USAID was instrumental in reviving several businesses in Grenada, all sizes, huge ones, small ones. All it was is that you, as a business owner, a company, what you were supposed to be employing, I think it was from 7 persons up to hundreds. You just had to have that. That is all was required. And I'm speaking from the experience. My salon a cut above received $10,000 from USAID. At the time, I had 10 persons employed. I think they started at 7. You could from 7 up, and I received $10,000 to help me back on my foot. I lost my salon totally altogether. The Cablevision company that we had at the time, if it wasn't for USAID, we would have lost that company altogether. And there were other businesses that USAID, and maybe if they were in Grenada State, we would have been in a better place today after burial. What the Prime Minister know about USAID and them being green, and to say that they left and it didn't affect anybody. And USAID is still in the region. As I understand it, they work in collaboration with the whole CARICOM thing and help out as a cluster. Something he should know, because he was chairman of CARICOM at one point. It wasn't just to bill around the boat. Well, it seems like that's all we got from that. Our monies spent in a waste. Waste. Proper wood must be mahogany. Look expensive. I'm sure it costs us a pretty sum. We don't know. All we know, we have a CARICOM round about. And the money was grants, eh? We got grants. It was given grants to get us back on our feet. You heard him on COVID, and I smiled. the resilience and COVID, and the tourism, people was given money to get back on their feet, and blah, 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 blah. 300,000 of that money they gave to Andy as soon as they came in. 300,000 of that money that was there to help businesses, small hoteliers, and so to get back on their feet. The NDC Board of Directors in GDB gave the highest amount that anyone could receive, $300,000. A mere, 3 months, 4 months after they came into office. They gave it to Andy Williams. Now, so to get back to COVID, he was proud to speak about Grenada's resilience. And it was a national, international thing how Grenada dealt with the COVID pandemic. The World Bank, the IMF, they all spoke and how we came out of it basically untouched in certain ways, right? But the Keith Mitchell administration did nothing in their 23 years. But he out there in Dubai, boasting and we, right? So out there, nobody know if he was the prime minister then or if it was a different administration. But over here, we will take the props, right? Did you guys hear Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell on the debt suspension? Did you hear? Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, I believe he's taking this line too far now. This thing is not a joke anymore. We kicks on it, extempo, we tell lies, but this thing is getting more and more serious. Because there was no need for the lie. The question was not about debt suspension and hurricane, right? And he proceeded to say to the world that we were able to sustain our debt, even as a result of the hurricane. But what I remember is that even before Hurricane Beryl landed on our shores, when the talk was that it was going to get here and it was going to be devastating, our Minister of Finance started to speak about debt suspension. And then, once the hurricane landed, maybe days, hours after, this is what the Minister of Finance had to say.
Section 9 of the Fiscal Resilience Act allows the minister, by order subject to negative resolution, to suspend the public debt target and primary balance rule under Section 8 at any time during a fiscal year in the event of a major economic shock resulting from a disaster. This can be triggered by a natural hazard declared by an authorized national, regional, or international agency or any other disaster declared pursuant to Section 55 of the Disaster Management Act of 2023. Finance Minister Cornwall explained that this suspension will provide the government with greater flexibility to incur debt for necessary recovery efforts.
At present, we have the central government debt to GDP ratio of 60.4%, the public debt to GDP of 75.1%. And when I refer to public debt, it includes central government debt as well as debt from our statutory bodies. Government policy is to prioritize grants and concession debt financing. In other words, we have committed ourselves to borrow monies if need be at concessional terms for the most part at this point in time. Currently, under the Fiscal Resilience Act, we have a primary balance target of 1.5% of GDP. We are hoping to be able at least to take on board all the expenses that are needed to replace the assets that were damaged on Grenada as a result of the storm, so we can basically use that facility to spend up to the limit or beyond if needs be.
While Cornwall could not specify exactly when the suspension would commence or how long it will last, he emphasized that discussions are ongoing to determine the best course of action.
We have had extensive dialogue and discussion at cabinet level yesterday, and we have, based on the submission, we have certain things to still fine-tune and clean up. Certainly after that, we should be able to at least take that position next Monday and be able to at least inform the general public on the way forward.
The Fiscal Resilience Act came into effect on January 1, replacing the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2015. It mandates that the government maintain a primary balance of at least 1.5% of its gross domestic product. Reporting for GBN News, I'm Nisha Paul.
Thank you, Nisha Paul of GBN News. Now, further to that, in a Now Grenada article written by accredited journalist Linda Straker, dated 19th of August 2024, Grenada will defer bond payments totaling over 12.5 million or for next scheduled dates. Money will be added to bonds lump sum principal payments until end of term 2030. Grenada will defer over US 17 million in total payments to government bondholders because of the devastation caused by Hurricane Beryl on the 1st of July 2024. And what did Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell say? Let's hear what he said again.
So, for example, last year we would have had a pretty devastating Category 4 hurricane very early in the hurricane season. That allowed us to withstand that shock, engage in significant rebuilding without having in any way to suspend our debt payments or engage in any sort of calamitous financial restructuring. We were able to weather.
First of all, the hurricane was in 2024 and not 2025. So last year we had a hurricane, or we would have had a hurricane. So I guess he could win me there because we didn't have a hurricane. He said we would have had it, right? But we did have a hurricane in 2024, right? The hurricane, he said, came very early in the hurricane season, and that allowed us to withstand that shock and engage in significant rebuilding without having any way to suspend our debt payments or engage in any sort of calamitous financial restructuring. Folks, Grenada is the first country in the world to use that so-called hurricane clause in a government bonds, a special feature that allows the authorities to postpone debt payments in the wake of a major natural disaster. The first country in the world. So let me explain a little more. There are two debt provisions. One is with respect to the debt target of 60% of the GDP, and that is in the Fiscal Resilience Law, where you suspend the clause that gives you that target requirement. So it allows you to borrow beyond the 60% of the GDP. And that's what the GBN clip you heard, that's what it was speaking to there. The other one pertaining to the Now Grenada article, and the Minister of Finance had spoken about the debt restructuring even before Beryl landed on our shores. That has to do with payments of the debt to bondholders. In particular, that is the hurricane clause in our debt agreement that I just spoke about, that we're the first, right? So it is twofold. One, they triggered the clause not to keep the debt limit at 60% of the GDP as per the fiscal resilience law, and for them not to pay on debt to a specific category of persons, the bondholders in particular. And so, yes, we did suspend our debt payments to the bondholders by triggering the debt suspension clause in the agreement. So never mind what Leo said there in Dubai. Never mind. Now, my thing is, there is no reason for the lie. The information was volunteered. But what is troubling, though, is why the show off? Because we broke. We all know by now we broke. And we need help. But if you all over the place talking like a big shot and USA gone and it didn't affect us, we don't need USAID, and the hurricane came and we did not need to suspend our debt, and COVID, we resilient, and who's going to help us? It kind of have me perplexed as to why he would do something like that. It's as if he wants us to see trouble. The workers that are not getting paid, some not getting paid on time, some 2 months they're not getting paid, some getting short monies, the unfixed roads, all projects halted. You know, we're in dire need, we're in dire stress. And for you to boast with lies, it's strange. You know, I used to, as I always say, you heard me say it here already, I don't believe in Obia. But this can't be normal. This had to be Obia. Because I don't know what else it is. I don't know. It had to be Obia. That's not normal behavior. And I do believe the Prime Minister should be called out on this in the Parliament. I'm saying it again. His Majesty's opposition. I know you don't have the numbers, but I believe you should go on record. You should go on record calling for a no confidence motion on this administration. After that post-cabinet briefing on such a serious matter and all the babbling that boils down to zero in reference to the matter that we heard there, and our Prime Minister knowing on the To the Point program just quite recently, the Minister of Finance, when asked about where we are with this debt suspension, he said to us, he said to the interviewer and to us by extension and to the world by further extension, that they're looking at 2027. Listen to him for yourself.
When will we see that reinstatement of that fiscal rule?
Well, we have said in earlier times that we had to suspend the fiscal resilience rules to allow Grenada to basically rebuild itself. I mean, coming out of Beryl, we have had the 16.5% destruction of GDP, and we need to basically find the avenue to basically rebuild all the housing that is going on and so on, all the roads that we're building back, all the other facilities that we have to put in place to make sure that we can get back to the level where we were and move from there. It will cost us monies and so on. We would not have had to borrow monies to do certain things if Beryl didn't hit us. So we have to be mindful of that also. And so I can see that we need about 2-3 years of breathing space to allow us to basically recover where we were prior to Beryl and so on. So yes, I'm looking at maybe 2027 for us to talk about reinstating the fiscal rules. Again, we are not doing it maliciously. We are doing it in conjunction with our partners or the World Bank, the IMF. They are also working along with us and guiding us. We have the FROC. The FROC is one of the institutions that was created by Parliament to assist or to tell the people what is happening in Grenada and when it's probably a time in manner to basically reinstate certain things. So we are not doing things willy-nilly or by accident.
So there you have it. The Minister of Finance is saying we need 2-3 years to catch ourselves. We need breathing space, right? Before they can reinstate. But the Prime Minister said we did not need to, period. We're resilient. Which is it? But they talk about the World Bank and who they're all, but these people might say that's a crazy man. Because they all know that Grenada had suspended their debts. The Prime Minister is sitting in Dubai saying, we never did. We didn't need to. The truth is maybe we did not need to because we had the CRIF money and other monies, mind you, that are not accounted for. And Andy and MIT still owing service providers $380,000 plus the millions spent, not just millions, hundreds of millions spent on housing had to be on Fantasy Island because, or but Jerry Island, take your pick. Because we can't see these houses. And remember, these houses were supposed to build in 3 weeks? Remember the sample? And the guy said you're going 3.5, and he said no, he wanted it in 3 weeks. Do you remember that? Where are these houses? The 200, the $15 million Andy got to build 200 houses at $50,000 for one. Where are those? The $8 million to renovate the 26 in St. Patrick and build another 15 in St. Patrick. Where are they? The 250 Build Back Better he said he was building in Grenada. Where are they? Money done. And the houses was given out without window, without door, without bathroom at all, without running water. And the Prime Minister enabled that. Until, as the people say, water more than flour. The money done anyways can account for 380,000. And you take the project from him at this stage. At this stage, you take the project from him. He came back to the worst independence celebration ever. Ever. Least attendance, most boring, long-winded celebration ever. I hope the fireworks was sponsored. Because you can't tell me that patients sharing oxygen at the general hospital, that they don't have suturing thread in the hospital and stitch you up with. That families are given prescription for paracetamol. And we are spending money on that type of fireworks. For what reason? The thing was boring long. It's the smallest military parade I've seen. There were a bunch of empty chairs, blue seats looking back at us. Even where the officials were supposed to sit, quite a few of the cabinet members was missing. I don't know if there was somewhere we couldn't see, but when they showed the area they were supposed to be, we saw the ones that was there. And then I hear all they're calling up the PSs and give them words, the ones that did not show up. We have another failed school feeding program. They promised, they accepted that they had problems with the program, the free school feeding program. Stop the people from paying $1, and they cannot manage it, they cannot maintain it. They said that the new year, which was September gone, 2025, was a new revamped school feeding program. The arrogant Minister of Education and his permanent secretary, Mrs. St. Louis Ned, told us that the program was revamped. The people already got food, and I think that was in July. The schools will already receive their first set of groceries. Shortly after that, all we're hearing is the kids saying what they're getting is chicken and rice and chicken. And apparently, even that these days, not a piece of fruit, not a piece of vegetable, and some juice in the bottom of a cup like this. That had me hysterical when I saw it. I could not believe what I was seeing. Let's hear Miss St. Louis Ned, Mrs. St. Louis Ned.
I'd like to give an update also on the school feeding program. Now, we know that in the previous year or so, we have had some hiccups. The Ministry of Education will be the first to admit that the program is not a perfect one in terms of implementation, meaning that we have had glitches and we have had challenges. But we are pleased to say that we have had a 60% increase in the number of students accessing the program over the last 2 years, so that our numbers to date stand at 16,000 children who access the program on a daily basis. Expenditure in excess of $3 million so far. We have continued to provide support for the program in terms of, over the last year, the last academic year, purchases of new equipment, appliances, utensils, etc. In Carriacou, for instance, where a lot of what we had before was lost, we were able to restore many of them, and we continue to add to our supplies and stock. We'd like to let the public know also that as of today, supplies have already been delivered to many schools in preparation for the start of school. So it is the expectation that when school begins on Monday, the school feeding program will be in full swing.
Great expectations. It wasn't swing in truth. Swing out the window. I mean, the Prime Minister just bought a new vehicle for his car detail. $400,000 vehicle, BMW. Why? Why the need? And children do not have food to eat. Our kids do not have food to eat on a day. The program used to help with breakfast for the kids, the parents, who sometimes, not that they can't afford, because of how they hurry and hustling to keep their family, the time they have to leave home, they welcomed paying the dollar for the breakfast at school and the lunch, a hot meal. But it's more important for the prime minister to drive in a $200,000 BMW vehicle and for him to pay $20,500 monthly rent. And I have a question to ask, Prime Minister, is it true the mansion now belongs to you? Well, not now, apparently a while now. Is it true? I'm asking the question. And so that the state, we the people, are paying you $20,500 to live in your house. And in the same breath, where are you with the renovations of the official prime minister's uh, building, house in Sanssouci, or Mount Royal, so to speak? Where are you with the renovations with that? Because you said that you were going to be renovating it on your DM the PM show. I mean, this thing we can't continue so. I believe I saw somewhere that some person passed while waiting. There was no oxygen at the clinic where they went for emergency. Come on now. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. And it's reminding me of 2012, 2013 era when we hit rock bottom. I mean, I can't even deny it. I can't hide it. It's the truth. I was an NDC member, then I was a part of it. But it's the truth. When you go to a meeting and everybody should in, it's like we're trying to settle something, to pay something. I was there. I'll tell you all about it one of these days. I want you to listen to this clip of the Prime Minister.
Not be an issue. You just have to go to the construction sites. You can go yourself. You can go up to Intercontinental in St. David's and interview and see what portion is Grenadian and what portion is non-Grenadian. And you'd see that the contractors are importing by the hundreds people to build hotels.
Oh, yeah, Leo. Leo say Intercontinental importing importing workers by the hundreds. I want to draw your attention to the extemporing that takes place when the Prime Minister's open his mouth. Extemporing that manufactures into lies. Into lies. So he said to go up. You see, it was a grand move because he know that the media workers that were sitting down, they ain't going up to Intercontinental to find out anything. But we went up to St. David's, to Intercontinental Range Project. And there are 80 foreign workers, 80 foreign workers on the project, out of mostly the Philippines and a few Cubans. And on the job there at Intercontinental, there are 449 Grenadians. 299 workers, maybe laborers, skilled workers, 299, and 150 subcontractors, my friends. 150 subcontractors, all Grenadians, a total of 449 Grenadians on the job, on that project, that intercontinental project. One has to take everything the Prime Minister say. What they say, with a spoon of salt. He doesn't speak the truth. He don't know what is truth anymore. And he makes up stories as he goes along. He therefore cannot be trusted. And so I want to end today's episode with a request I got from Canada. Because they want to sensitize Grenadians on what is really going on in Toronto when it comes to the chapter, the embassy. You don't know what is national anymore and what is NDC. Well, everything belongs to NDC now. Everything is NDC. Mr. Jerry, what's his name again? That guy that is the Consul General, Hopkin, Mr. Jerry Hopkin, is running the consulate as an NDC office. Now, if you look on your screen, you see a flyer advertising an event, bring back the old time days. They said you can contact Sandra Pear. Now, this doesn't show anything like a group or anything. This looked like some private event. Now, this event is celebrating the 52nd anniversary of independence, and it's on the 16th of February 2026. A Grenadian culinary experience. You have to pay $25 to enter. It's at 1385 Huntingwood Drive, Scarborough, Ontario. 12 noon, 12 to 7 p.m. And for more information, you have to contact Miss Sandra Pear. No, I know who Sandra Pear is. Sandra Pear is, what would you say, a bad NDC in Toronto, as it's always been. And that's her privilege. All right, it doesn't matter, but that's who she is. But as I'm saying, there was nothing on the flyer that linked that flyer to NDC. The flyer wasn't even yellow, it was green and, colored up, right? Now, this flyer came out almost a couple of weeks now, as far as I understand it. Now, let's look at the second flyer. Now, this flyer, this one came out yesterday. This one dubbed Homecoming 2026, the Greater Toronto Area launch. Everything else on the flyer was the same as the first one, right? It says bring back the old time days. The date is the same, the 16th of February 2026. The time is the same, 12 noon to 7 p.m. The address is the same. And so the only thing different, it's added Homecoming 2026 Greater Toronto Area launch. You have to pay $25 as well. Now, one of the things the community in Toronto asking, why do they have to pay $25 to go to the launch? They didn't say it's a fundraising. They said the Greater Toronto launch, area launch. Now, that is the diaspora launch. They have this big thing coming up in end of June, July. And so they're launching that in, I guess, to enlighten people about, what's going to happen and all of that. Now, the government of Grenada has been advertising this diaspora homecoming for some time now. And according to, and I brought it to you here because I said to y'all, if we're paying attention, that looks like when the election will be called, because we all know that the NDC in office now cannot win the next general election on the ground here in Grenada. They have to import hundreds, if not thousands, as the Prime Minister, hundreds of persons from the diaspora and CBI citizens to vote. They have to rig this election to win it. We ain't going back through that suffering, Papa. Not at all. No. So they have this homecoming diaspora thing that is coming up, right? And they're asking these people to pay this $25. And they're questioning what the $25 is for, who is collecting the money. Because we know we have a gentleman down here posing, Mr. Roy McEwen, working with the government, edging up the electoral office because he's a computer specialist. That still can account for the money. Well, you know, he could account for it because it went into his account. In the UK's money, the chapter mashed because of that. They had gala, the Prime Minister's gala, and the monies from the gala went into Mr. Roy McEwen's account. And then they had a big raffle advertising, big prices. People bought tickets to date the raffling call. And the chapter complained to the Prime Minister, to the General Secretary, to the PRO, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, no help. Today he's down here working for the government, helping and to help out with the elections and forming companies with special envoys and procuring for the new electoral instruments, equipment. So the people want to know where that money going, who's collecting it. And the head of the diaspora, the chairman, what he is, Terry Forrester, he and Andy Williams will be visiting. So the event that seemed like it was a private event turned into a collaboration, it would seem, with the government of Grenada, not the government of Grenada, with the NDC. That's not government. That's it, with the NDC. But the money is the same. You have to pay the $25 and everything else is the same. And as I said, the people say they want to know where is the money's collected, where is that money going? And better yet, who is it going to? Speaking to a number of persons in the area, I was told, and I'm talking about the Toronto area, I was told that this is the biggest divide they've ever seen in Toronto, ever. And I'm speaking about person well in their 60s, way over that. Some. They said it's the biggest divide they've ever seen between green and yellow at what's supposed to be national events. Persons are asked to wear yellow, their NDC t-shirts. The decorations are all yellow. Down to the tablecloth is yellow. And the Council General for Toronto fuels the segregation at a function, a meeting. He asked, who is here from the other side? But are we surprised? Lest we forget, the Prime Minister at his convention rally in Bushiju had the same MO.
We need to know one another. They have senior members and junior members and those who just joined. We need to know that all of us belongs to the National Democratic Congress. So we can't just argue and fight for what I will get, what I will get, what I will get. when you don't know your people. So sometimes the reason the other side getting is because we're not saying who are the real NDC people who need to get, because we don't know one another enough. So if we are telling the MP or the caretaker, these are our people, and let's go see them or bring the people, then we will know each other better.
What they say? The fish runs from the head. Some of you, let me show you the extent of what is taking place in Toronto. Some of you might remember the video at the town hall meeting in Toronto to host the Prime Minister at this town hall, the Prime Minister of Grenada, Honorable Deacon Mitchell. Here is what took place.
So hold on. Well, well, that's all right. In politics, you have to deal with that. So first, good evening, sir. Right, so, well, you will get the opportunity. And never assume that I know what you're talking about. Said you fool some of the people some of the time, you can't fool So I'm happy to give you the mic to ask a question so that I can answer, so we can get this over with and then we can continue. So if there's a mic, is there a mic? No, you interrupted, so I'm giving you the opportunity to ask the question.
Yes, sir. In a well-mannered way, you may ask the question.
It only takes so much force for you. Any man is standing in front of us today.
Okay, one moment, please. Everyone get quiet. Sir, the Prime Minister is offering you an opportunity to ask your question. Please ask your question.
Mr. Prime Minister, why are you saying that while you and your government is blocking a $50 million US project to create 250 jobs in Carriacou for the last 2 years? And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right? You know exactly.
So, first of all, I actually don't know what you're talking about. So, perhaps if you can. So, for the benefit of myself and for the benefit of myself and everyone here, and particularly the people of Carriacou Peace Market, and particularly MP for Carriacou Peace Market, you can All right, so thank you. You got the opportunity to, gentlemen, you got the opportunity to ask your question. I've answered, and I think I've answered.
I'm assuming this is real, but this is the same thing David. So, can you tell
All right, so thank you, everyone. Thank you. I will continue with my presentation.
Grown men and women, adults. I see there were no youth in there. Grown men and women in Toronto, NDC supporters, behaving like animals. The gentleman came in to ask a question to the Prime Minister, well dressed, well suited, suit fitting, proper, dapper, looking like a gentleman. He stood up to ask a question to the Prime Minister, and it wasn't what they wanted to hear. And of course, Leo say he don't know. Well, we know that's what his new thing is. Either he don't know, the question should be posed to someone else. He didn't see, he didn't hear, he wasn't there. Right? So he don't know. He actually thanked the crowd for taking care of the man. They threw him out of the town hall eventually. Because he asked a question, he was not even allowed to sit back down. They escorted him out of the room, threw him out of the room. And that was supposed to be not an NDC town hall. It was supposed to be the Prime Minister come to Toronto and to meet with the Grenadians in Toronto. And this is what the complaints I got. That's what is going on in Toronto now. So much so that persons do not attend what is supposed to be national events anymore. They don't. And that's what's happening throughout, not just in the diaspora, right here in Grenada. Look at the stadium on the 7th of February. Look at what it look at it. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, trying to keep them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you next week, same time, same place. You have a good week now. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.